we also learnt about the extraction of aluminium from bauxite ore. Extraction of a metal, basically there are 3 steps. First step is concentration of the ore. The melting point of the impurity should be higher than that of the metal. In this method, the impure metal is taken as the anode. The impurities does not like to be in the solid state, it likes to go into the molten state. Hello my dear students, welcome back to session 6 on the chapter General Principles and Processes of Isolation of Elements. Last class, we studied about the extraction of copper from copper pyrite ore. We also learnt about the extraction of aluminium from bauxite ore, and also we learnt about the extraction of gold by hydrometallurgy. Today, we shall learn about the process of refining. In extraction of a metal, basically there are 3 steps. First step is concentration of the ore. Second step is extraction of the crude metal from the concentrated ore. These 2 steps we have already studied. The last step is purification of the crude metal, which is called as refining. So what is refining? The crude metal which is obtained by extraction, it is contaminated with some of the impurities. So several techniques are used for purifying the crude metal, and that process is called as refining. And the first method in refining is distillation. In distillation, we can purify the metal if they have a very low boiling point. Okay, or I can tell if the metal can evaporate at a low temperature, then we can use the process distillation. So here in this method is used in the case of volatile metals like zinc, mercury, cadmium, etc. So what happens in the distillation process? When you are heating up, the vapors of the metal is formed. Those vapors can be collected, impurities will be left behind, and thus you will get the purest form of the metal. So when impure metal is evaporated, to obtain the pure metal as a distillate. So the metal is the one which is evaporating, which can be cooled or condensed, and will get the metal back. Okay. So that is the first method, distillation. Next one is liquation. Okay. In this process, those metals which have impurities whose melting point is higher than the metal can be purified in this method. So what is it? The melting point of the impurity should be higher than that of the metal. Impurity melting point is higher than that of the metal. For example, I can take tin, okay, and the contaminate what is there is iron. So if I take the impure tin metal here and start heating, okay, here impure metal or the ore is added, okay, sloping earth we call it as, because it has got a slope like this, okay, and we start heating. When it is heated, what happens here is tin has got the lower melting point compared to iron. So slowly tin will start melting and it can be collected. Iron is not yet melted, so impurity is just left behind as it is. So this is called as liquation process. Next method is electrolytic refining. We have studied this already. So once again I shall explain the electrolytic refining of copper, particularly specifically copper. In this method, the impure metal is taken as the anode and the pure strip of the same metal is taken as the cathode, and it is put in a suitable electrolytic bath containing soluble salt of the same metal. So what we are taking? I am taking example of electrolytic refining of copper. I have taken impure copper rod as anode, okay, and I have taken pure copper rod as the cathode. So this is cathode, this is anode, and both are dipped in the electrolytic bath of copper sulfate solution. So in the electrolyte also I have Cu plus 2 ions and SO4 2 minus ions, as well as water also is there because I have dissolved it. Okay. So now when electricity is passed, okay, what happens? Here you can see at anode the metal will melt and go out as metal ion, liberating electrons, and at cathode the metal ion will be attracted, accepts electron and gets deposited. Or I can tell here what happens at anode, copper metal what is there, it will go out as Cu plus 2 ions and 2 electrons are liberated. Okay, and at cathode what happens? Cu plus 2 ion, see cation, it is positively charged, gets attracted towards the copper cathode, okay, and it will accept 2 electrons and get deposited as the copper metal. So here copper metal starts getting deposited, and here this starts dissolving because all the copper what is there is going into the solution as Cu plus 2 ions. So whatever impurities is there, that will be deposited below, which is called as the anode mud. So this is electrolytic refining of copper, in which you are passing electric current through an electrolyte containing the ions of the same metal which you want to purify. Impure metal rod is taken as anode, pure metal rod is taken as the cathode. Okay. Next is zone refining. Now this method is based on one principle, that is the metal impurities what is there, that is more soluble in the molten state than in the solid state. So it's very, very important. What is it? The metal impurities are more soluble in the molten state than in the solid state. So what is the meaning of this? So the impurities does not like to be in the solid state. It likes to go into the molten state or the liquid state of the metal. Okay. So what happens here is we take a rod. Okay. For example, here we have taken the impure germanium metal rod, and this should be in the atmosphere of inert gas. There should not be any other gases. Okay. And here you have a circular heating ring. Okay. You can see this ring. This is a circular heating ring around this metal. Okay. So now this circular heating ring is at a very high temperature. So when it is slowly moved, the metal which is there inside that ring, that portion starts melting. Okay. Now what happens is when the metal is in the molten state, all the impurities will start moving with this molten state. Okay. Now slowly imagine the ring is being slowly moved. So when it is slowly moving, the impurities also again goes to the molten state, and the metal which is not exposed in this ring starts getting solidified, which will be pure. So slowly as we are moving this particular ring which is heating, the metal around that as it dissolves, the impurity also will start moving along with the ring. So this is done several times. So once it is moving till here, and all the impurities will come till the end. Now again the ring is started from the beginning. Slowly we will move such that only the molten region is there in between the ring, and the impurities will start slowly moving along with the ring. Again it is brought back, and the last part of the rod can be cut off, and the remaining part of the rod, whichever metal it is the purest form. Usually this method is used in purification of germanium, silicon and gallium, that is the semiconductors. Okay. So what is the principle? As I told you all, the metal impurities is more soluble in the molten state than in the solid state. Thus the impurities will move along with the ring where there is a molten state which is created, and thus it can be removed later on. Okay. So this is called as zone refining. Next is vapor phase refining. Here what we are doing is, first the metal is converted into a volatile compound, and that volatile compound is collected. Then that volatile compound is again we decompose that to get the metal back. But to apply this particular refining process, there are two criteria which is important. One is the metal should form a volatile compound with the available reagent. So metal should be forming a volatile compound. That's the first criteria. Okay. Second is the volatile compound should be easily decomposable. Once the volatile compound is formed, that should be decomposable. Otherwise, we will not get our metal back, isn't it? So these are the two criteria which is very, very important. So we have two methods under vapor phase refining. In this, we have first process, that is Mond's process for refining of nickel. It is very, very, very important for your exam. Okay. So what are we doing here is, we take the nickel metal, okay, which has to be purified, and heat it with carbon monoxide, a stream of carbon monoxide at this particular temperature. We get a complex which is volatile. Okay, so all the impurities is left behind. Nickel with carbon monoxide will form this complex which is volatile. So this volatile compound, that is its vapors are collected elsewhere. Thus, further you get only the vapors of the volatile complex which is formed. Further, this complex is heated at a higher temperature. You will get nickel and carbon monoxide gas will be liberated. So carbon monoxide is a gas which will go away. What will remain back is only the nickel metal. Okay. So this is Mond's process. Next one is Van Arkel method for refining of zirconium or titanium. Again, this is very important. This method is very useful for removing all oxygen and nitrogen impurities which is present in zirconium and titanium. So what we are doing is, for example, we are taking zirconium, heating it with iodine. It forms metal iodide, okay, which is volatile. This is volatile. Now, this volatile compound is collected elsewhere. Impurities all is left behind, and metal iodide is now heated on tungsten filament, okay, to about 1800 Kelvin. So, what do you need? You need tungsten filament at 1800 Kelvin. When it is heated, all the metal will deposit on the tungsten filament and iodine will be liberated. Okay. So, this is Van Arkel process. Next is chromatography. Chromatography we have already studied in our first year, but again chromatography we have it here because it is one of the methods for separating different elements or a mixture what you have, isn't it? So, chromatographic method is the modern method applied for separation, purification and testing the purity of the element and their compounds. This method is based on the principle that different components of a mixture adsorb differently on the adsorbent. So, we have two phases here, that is a stationary phase and the mobile phase. A stationary phase is usually a solid, isn't it? And the mobile phase is usually a liquid or a gas. So, we will have different types of chromatographic methods, that is it can be paper chromatography, it is gas chromatography, or it can be column chromatography, thin layer chromatography. There are different chromatographic methods. Just I will give you a few examples, just a revision from what you have studied in your first year. Okay. So, here we have thin layer chromatography. What we do is we have taken two components. Okay. Here we have the solvent which is there, and we have the glass plate on which there is a silica gel. Okay. And here you are going to add 2 drops and you have to run. What do you mean by running? It has to be completely covered. After 5 minutes, if you see, the components in the two mixtures have been separated. After 10 minutes, you can see it is more separated and it is going above and above. The solvent has run up to this mark over here, and this is the distance which is run by the different components I can take. Okay. So, here I can take, this is the distance which is run by one component, the second component, third component, etc. So, if I take, this is the distance which is run by the component or the mixture what I have, and this is the distance which is run by the solvent. I can calculate the RF. Okay. RF is distance travelled by the component divided by distance travelled by the solvent, and once I get the RF value, I can use the standard RF values to find out what was that component exactly, okay, in that particular mixture. So this method is called as thin layer chromatography. Similarly, we have, for example, paper chromatography here. So one component is added over here just above the solvent, okay, and then it is allowed to run. So once it is run, you can see I have got different patches of different color here, isn't it? And when the RF value they have calculated and they have done the comparison with the standard RF value, it's found that this pigment is carotene, this pigment was xanthophyll, this is chlorophyll A, that is chlorophyll B, and these are the leaf stains which is left behind. So this is an extract which was added from the leaf, okay. So there are different types of chlorophylls which we can observe, okay. Next is column chromatography. In column chromatography, you have the stationary phase which is there, okay, and the mixture of component, for example, A, B, C is added here, and here usually you have the silica gel which is there, okay, in the column, and solvent is added, okay, or I can tell it's the mobile phase which we can add. So what happens is initially A has got adsorbed in this position, B and C are still moving. You can see here A has got adsorbed, B has got adsorbed, C has got adsorbed. Now you continue adding the mobile phase. First what comes out will be the component C. Next what comes out will be the component B, and next what comes out will be component A. Thus we have separated A, B, C components. This method is called as the column chromatography. So three examples I have shown for chromatography. One is thin layer chromatography, paper chromatography, and this is column chromatography. So I hope you have understood these methods of purification or separating the mixtures, okay. Next we have uses of aluminium, copper, zinc and iron. First we learn about the aluminium. Aluminium is used as aluminium foil, that is used as wrappers for various products. Wires of aluminium is used in electrical conductors, so they are used in wires. Also, aluminium is highly reactive, so it is used in extraction of chromium and manganese from their ores. Fine dust of aluminium metal is used in paints and lacquers. And then we have alloys of aluminium being light is very useful, okay. Next is copper. Copper is used in all the wires for electrical purpose, correct? We have seen that in the electrical wires we have inside, okay, that is inside the insulation. If you see, we have copper wires. Then we have several alloys of copper which is very useful. For example, we have brass, that is copper with zinc, bronze is copper with tin, and copper is also called as the coin age alloy which is with nickel metal, okay. Next we have zinc. Zinc plates and rods are used in battery and dry cells. We also have zinc dust which is used in the reducing agent which is used in manufacture of dye stuff and paint. Zinc is also used for galvanizing and for protecting the iron from rusting. Also we have zinc constituent in many alloys like brass and German silver, etc. Okay. Next we have iron. Iron has got lot many uses. You can see most important use of iron is cast iron, which is used for casting stoves, railway sleepers, gutter pipes, toys, etc. Iron is also used in manufacture of wrought iron and steel. Also, wrought iron is being resistant to rusting. It is used in anchors, wires, belts, nails, railway carriage, coupling, and then agricultural implements, okay. That is because it is resistant to rusting. It can be done resistant to rusting. Alloys of steel is obtained because of iron. And then we have nickel steel which is used in making cable, automobiles, aeroplane parts, pendulum, measuring tapes, etc. etc. So we have lot many uses of iron in different forms, like cast iron has its own use, wrought iron, then steel, okay. All which is component what we have used is iron in them, okay. So next class I'll be starting with the next chapter, that is chemistry in everyday life. I hope you have understood today's class. Thank you my dear children. Stay tuned, stay focused.